to Talkin VAWLS, episode number 30. Breaking news for the 2018 season. We are now available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and most podcast platforms via the Outright Geekery Podcast Network. But also, new episodes will continue to upload on YouTube via the S&B Network. But my name is Boogie Bentley.
I'm Vols JP.
And I'm Armaine.
We are at Talkin VAWLS _pod. That's VAWLS _pod on Facebook and Twitter. Give us a follow. Also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, do us a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you're a new listener or you prefer the podcast, if you can, jump over on YouTube and subscribe, leave a like. It helps us. It boosts the analytics. But also, you got to hit 1,000 subscribers before you can monetize videos. And I think we're like 800, something like that. So if you can subscribe, that'll help us out. But let's get into it, guys. I'm going to shoot honest right out of the gate here. I've been laying low all through spring practice. Obviously I watched the orange and white game, but now fall practice, the season just snuck up on me. Maybe it's because they're coming off the worst season in school history. When you don't win a damn SEC game, it's kind of hard to get fired up. I know the coaching changes are exciting, but man, I don't know. It's kind of depressing to be less than a week away, and I still don't have that fire in my eyes.
Well, I've been keeping up with it. As soon as fall practice started, I was keeping up with it, listening to see what was going on, and I am encouraged. Of course, we'll get into our predictions here later on for the season and everything, but I think we got some football coaches. Now, whether or not that they'll be successful, it'll come down to whether or not that they can recruit at the level, which is encouraging with what they've already doing. But I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. It's football time in Tennessee.
I'm ready. I'm still in wait and see mode right now. I'm not. I agree with JP. I think now we have some actual football coaches down there. You're not hearing a bunch of cliches. You're not hearing a bunch of PR, youth salesman type stuff down there. I do like that aspect of it. We talked about it last night on text a little bit. I'm in wait and see mode for a bit on this. I'm fully behind them and everything like that. But, we've all bought in for numerous staffs now since Fulmer's been gone, only to be let down. And I'm still in wait and see mode. There are some encouragement, but there's some concerns still as well. And I don't know if the I don't know if the encouragements outweigh the concerns for me at this point.
I don't understand how you can't. You have to be in wait and see mode. We've been burned so many times since Fulmer left. We've been burned so many times that it's hard, man. But I can't think of the movie. What's the movie about the Red Sox? It's got Jimmy Fallon in it. God, what's
Fever
it called?
Pitch.
Yeah, and his Drew Barrymore's like, I like it. I like fall, whatever the guy's name is. And that's JP. It's like preseason JP. I like that guy. He's optimistic. He's positive. They're going to win 10 games. And then once that first minute comes off the clock, then football season JP shows up and it all goes out the window.
Be back to drinking faucet water and not buying the bottles at the concession stand and stuff
Exactly.
again.
Anybody that's been with us for this full ride of a podcast is like, you boys are nuts. You don't even know what you believe in anymore.
Yeah, but I mean that's to be expected. We had stability down there in Knoxville. Majors was down there for how many years? From 77 through 92 or 93, and then Fulmer took over for 17 years, and then the last 10 years have just been. We didn't have a choice. If you're a fan and you follow any type of program, you don't have a choice but to get behind whoever that they've hired. It's just unfortunate that, since they let Fulmer go, there's been three turds that's basically roamed the sidelines. And this last one was the worst one. But
I
Yeah,
don't
and
know who.
it just, yeah, and man, we all bought in. We
well,
all
yeah,
bought in on the last one, and man, it just there were signs, along the way. It's just like, but I think we all kind of stayed on board for the most part. But I think after the not just past year, but year before at South Carolina lost, he lost a lot of people between that and the Vanderbilt game that year, and then last year, who could have imagined going through that? So yeah, that's part of the reason it's hard for me to buy in at this point, even though
sure.
I am encouraged by coaches. It seems like Pruitt's a football guy. He's brought football guys with him. But with that being said, I've got to see it on the field. I've got to see it on
Absolutely.
the field right now. I mean, I'm gonna come Saturday morning when I wake up, I'm gonna be fired up and believing they're gonna win. But I've still got to see it, and that's not necessary next week. I want to see a win next week as well. I don't know if it'll happen, but when we get to that meat of the schedule, that's where I want to start seeing some results right there.
What do you want this season? What are results? Because I mean, it's sad, but it's come to the point. I was looking at the schedule earlier today, and usually, God, I'm getting sidetracked here, but I was talking to somebody the other day about us being the most spoiled generation of Tennessee fans of all time, and we just are. Our age group, we were so spoiled coming up in the '90s and seeing the national championship. And remember when you used to look at the schedule and it's like, well, Vanderbilt's an automatic win. Like if I looked at the schedule right now, back then it's, well, West Virginia's a win, ETSU's a win, UTEP's a win, Florida's a game, Georgia's a win, South Carolina's a win, Charlotte, Kentucky, Missouri, all wins. And now it's, golly, what do you want when you say you want to see some improvement? Does that mean just beating Kentucky and Vanderbilt? Because we've not had that. 0-8 in SEC play. And I know, golly, we shouldn't be talking about last season, but that's why I'm in the mindset that I'm in.
Well, I'll start. Here's what I want to see. I want to see a team that's competitive. I want to see a team that plays physical. I am tired of this Mickey Mousing around down there. And that's one reason why I'm encouraged by Pruitt is that he understands what it takes to win at a high level. And he is recruiting guys, you know, even some of these guys that he took late in the cycle this past year, even on signing day. I mean, you look at that John Mincy fella, that Curart Garland. You look at those guys. I mean, those 3 stars or whatever. Even the wide receiver Tillman. I mean, he was a 2-star, and I mean they've even been talking about him. But what I'm more talking about is the players that play physical. I want to be able to line up when they need to get a first down and it's 3rd down and 1, and them be able to blow somebody off the freaking football. That's what I want to see.
I
And
agree. Yeah, go ahead.
and yes, I absolutely expect to beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt this year. Absolutely. Absolutely. If he loses to either one of those teams, then I'm going to start having questions about Jeremy Pruitt, because I'm just telling you right now, Tennessee does not lose to Kentucky and Vanderbilt with
I
any
agree.
kind of football coach on the sideline.
I agree. I want to see the line. I'm the same way. I want to see an offensive line that will line up and just bulldoze you when they need that yard. But I also want to see a defensive line that's not going to give up 300 and 400 yards rushing a game. And, Vanderbilt and Kentucky, it's like JP said, those are expected wins. I want to see the next step. I want to, Florida should not come into Knoxville and beat Tennessee this year. I want to see a Tennessee coach do what he should do and beat Florida and set that tone right from the get-go, because we've had a couple of them that have screwed it up. When Kiffin come in, Florida was loaded. Jones and Dooley never faced a loaded Florida team, and yet they crapped the bed pretty much every time with them. So I want to see it start with Florida, and then Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Yeah, I never, ever will expect to lose to Vanderbilt and Kentucky. So getting to 6 wins with Florida and 3 of the conference, I want to see a team that progresses. I don't want to see a quarterback still at the end of the season sitting there holding on to the ball and taking sacks. And I don't want to see a defense that keeps getting worse and worse. I just want to see winning the games you're supposed to, and I want to see progression from players. We've not seen progression in players in years. Any kind of progression we've seen has been in a bad direction. So, I mean, I want to see progress, and I think absolutely a bowl game. You don't get a bowl game, it's a failure of a year. I'll throw it out there now. No bowl game, it is a failure of a year. And it may be 6-6, but it's still a bowl game, and you've got to have that bowl game to get those extra practices. You may get in a good place, like somehow going to Florida or something like that, and getting a good setting like we did, what was Butch's first bowl. That kind of set them on a decent track for a couple years, even though nothing came of it. But you got to get that bowl game, no doubt about it.
Going back to the offensive line, I think it was it Kyle Phillips talking about how impressed he is with him. But that's the thing I hate about fall practice, spring practice. I hate when you're if Tennessee's having success running the football in practice, what does that mean? Because look what the defensive line did last year, stopping the run.
Yep.
So that's the hard part to look at it. JP, do you think the offensive line is going to be improved? Because, I mean, I'm assuming Garantano is going to be the guy, even though Pruitt's not going to talk about it. But talking about him getting rid of the ball, man, how about protecting the guy, giving him a chance to make some plays? I think the offensive line is biggest concern, and defensive line.
As far as the offensive line goes, I think especially by the end of the year, I have expectations that the offensive line could be one of the strongest units on the entire team. It seems to be that it's been a pretty competitive camp for the offensive linemen, and you've got a lot of guys that seem to be a lot more physical. Of course, getting Trey Smith back was just absolutely huge. First and foremost, just glad that that his health scare there or his health problems have obviously have improved or gotten better. That's even given him the opportunity to continue to play football. But getting him back, and another guy they're talking about now is Brandon Kennedy. I mean, I think I read that he had only played like really in 10 games down there at Bama, but who knows? I mean, I think that Jameer Johnson guy, that fella that signed from junior college, supposedly he's coming on strong. And even though they're saying he only weighs like 285 pounds, they said that he's pushing for a spot at guard. So it seems to be that there's more competition down there right now on the offensive line. So I definitely expect them to be improved. It may not show up in the first game, but like Rocky said, the progression as the season goes on, I feel like with the coaching staff that we have down there now, that's what I expect to see.
I don't personally, in my opinion, my biggest concern on offense is quarterback right now. I think obviously the coaching's not been very good on offensive line for a bit. The couple years many sacks weren't given. I think that was more Josh Dobbs than it was offensive line. And just now, I mean, the quarterback's my biggest concern. It really is, because Garantano has not really sold me. I mean, he's got the tools. I think he's got some potential. But I haven't seen anything last year in a game situation. And just reading about the quarterbacks here in fall camp. I've not gotten the warm and fuzzies about them at all. And I think the line, like you said, Trey Smith coming back, getting Chance Hall, looks like he's going to be back. I think that'll be a big boost as well. And looks like they've got a little bit of depth. I mean, they've got to avoid the injuries like they've had. And I just can't see injuries piling up like they have the last couple of years. But we said that last year going in as well, and look what happened. So, but my biggest concern is at quarterback. I think wide receivers will be fine. I think wide receivers may make us scratch our heads at times because I think there's a lot of potential there. But I think at times I think there's going to be some drop passes with them. Running backs, I think running backs will be maybe the strength of the offense.
That's what I think too. I think so too.
I think tight ends will be all right. And hey, it seems like we've got a fullback down there. So,
maybe a couple of them.
Yeah, maybe a couple of them. So I think if we get some quarterback play, the offense can be decent, but who knows?
But that's the thing about the running back. So if they are the strength of the team, utilize that to open up the passing game, and see some easy throws for these guys. But anytime you got two guys and you don't know who's going to start, does that just mean you have two guys that aren't really good? Or not, nobody stands out. That's what I don't like about going into a season and not knowing. I mean, I don't know anything about this Keller Christ kid. I don't know. Although when he showed up on campus, I said that looks like a grown ass man.
He's a big old boy.
Compared to Garantano, for sure. But that don't mean you're going to be the better quarterback.
Yeah.
I think I think Christ is. He had some decent years at Stanford. It seems. I don't think he does anything spectacular, so to speak. But he's not going to stand back there and necessarily lose you a game. I don't believe. I think he's a pretty smart quarterback. He's definitely not going to stand there and hold on to the ball like Garantano does, and I hope they get that fixed.
They better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if the running game's going good, that means your line's doing good. And, quarterbacks there's going to be times a sack is a sack, and there's nothing a quarterback can do. But if you stand back there and hold it, you don't have 5 to 10 seconds to just sit back there and think about it. You've got to be getting rid of it. You've got to be finding somebody. So I think it's a fair point Boogie made. Is it just a case of neither quarterback's that great? And I think that's maybe the case, possibly. And I almost expect to see both of them play against West Virginia next week.
I actually think that they're playing kind of a mind game with Garantano. I think they're trying to see just how mentally tough that he is. That's my thoughts. I think that they've known for a long time that he's going to be a starter, and I'm not sure.
Golly, do you think that's a good idea?
Well,
you think it's a good idea to play mind games with the guy you want to be the leader of your football team?
Well,
I hope.
But I think that's what they're doing. Is they're sitting there going, is this guy mentally tough enough that if something goes wrong, is he going to be able to lead that team back? Is he going to be able to put away a bad series? Maybe he throws a pick six. Is he going to be able to get back in that huddle, 2 minutes later and say, "All right, fellas, let's go." And
I just
and I wonder if that's what they're doing. I
they'd have made the decision
I don't
before
know
now.
if that's what they're doing. I just wonder.
But we're less than a week away. I want to know who the guy is, and maybe they do know who the guy is. But I think Rocky's right in that. I think they're both going to play. I think they'll both probably play. I don't even know if we'll have a starter until maybe the Florida game.
I mean, it's
possible. You could be right. I mean, I think I do expect Garantano to start next week, and then I think his play depends on whether Chris plays or not. I mean, again, I think Garantano. I don't think there's any question about his arm. I think he's not dogs mobile by any means, like that, but he can make plays he can get a few yards if he needs it with his legs. Yeah, it's in his head. I mean, the biggest thing with him is always holding on. He had the Matt Sims syndrome, sitting there holding on to the ball for too long, and that's you just don't have it. You just do not, especially with the line, especially if it's offensive line. You do not have that time, and if he could get it out of his head, I think he'll be fine. But will it take later on into the season, or what? Right there is kind of my question. So we'll see, but I think if he comes out and he's showing that same abilities of holding on to the ball, or if he's making tough decisions, I fully expect you'll see Chris fairly, I'm not going to say real early, but before halftime if the offense is not doing anything.
You think so?
I think so. I think you've got to – I'm not – if he goes 2 possessions and they don't score, you don't jerk him then, but you can't wait till fourth quarter either, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Just depends how bad it is, I guess.
Yeah. I only think the only way that you'll see Chris at West Virginia game is if Garantano's a turnover machine.
Maybe you're right.
Let's talk about defense. Again, depth. You all right?
Sorry.
You sound like you started getting sick when you were trying to say Alabama earlier and you couldn't, and you just shortened it to Bama.
I know it.
Sound like you're about to choke on it.
I was wondering if I was having technical issues or something for a minute.
He just can't say the word, man.
That's what it is. I hate that word.
When I look at the depth chart for defense, I get a little excited about the linebackers, man. But
yes.
Can they stay healthy? Kirkland, I love the guy, but he is a huge concern just staying healthy. But like I said, when you look at the names, Taylor, Kirkland, Batuli, Kongbo, I love Kongbo moving to outside linebacker.
Do you really?
I love, yeah, I do. I do.
That's one right there that I'll have to see it to believe it.
That's an interesting one. It really is.
I don't know why I'm excited about it. Maybe I listened to an interview with he was talking about it, and you could hear the excitement in his voice. Like, he said when Pruitt, I think he told Pruitt, I'll do whatever it takes to help the team. But, man, he seemed genuinely excited. And when that's the case, I don't know. I'm fired. That one fires me up. I hope he has a good year.
Oh, I do too. Because if he has a good year, then I think Tennessee's got a chance to surprise some folks.
That's an interesting move because we've seen. I don't think he was very good at defensive end, just on a pass rush or anything. But we saw a couple years ago. Remember, he picked off the pass, took it back for a touchdown. He's playing defensive tackle at the time, but the guy showed some athleticism. He's obviously looked like for his size, he runs pretty well. Interesting move, and then you got Sapp, who you didn't mention, who I think's got a chance to be decent. I like the linebacking core if they can stay healthy. I think that's going to be the strength of the defense.
Well, if our defense has any success, it's going to have to be good because, we have got to find a way to put some pressure on the quarterback. After Barnett left, last year we pretty much didn't have a whole lot of pressure at all. So it'll be interesting to see if we're playing more in a 3-4, if we can get Darrell Taylor out there to where he can utilize his speed more, and possibly Kongbo too. Like I said, that one's still going. I'm gonna have to see him actually produce in a game at outside linebacker before I get real excited about him.
I agree on that.
With that, but yeah, I think Daniel Batuli has a chance to be a all SEC linebacker this year, and Kirkland. He's proven it. If he can just if that knee will hold up, that's the main thing. He's already supposedly has been held out some of a fall camp, but if there's anybody that's, I guess, has played some football down there, it is Kirkland. So, hopefully those are just more of just maintenance days and just trying to make sure that knee healthy enough that he can try to make it through season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference in a maintenance day and an actual injury, and I mean, I like it's optimistic going into the season, pretty healthy, but all that steps up when you get into actual meat of the season.
Well,
Can they
yeah, but
hold up? Because you're gonna have some injuries, but golly, man, this team has been so cursed over the years with injuries, and I know that's a cop out. Everybody deals with injuries, but it's nice going into the season pretty healthy.
yeah, but I tell you, the last couple of years is because they didn't have any strength and conditioning program.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
Yeah.
obvious
Yeah.
with
I
that.
think.
So, hopefully now that we've actually got somebody that understands principles of football, which includes, strength and conditioning. I mean, who would have thought that you'd have a coach that didn't think strength and conditioning was important for major college football? But we did. So now
there's
that we've
probably a
got
few
somebody down there
interns
that
at Alabama
understands
that think
that,
that.
I was
maybe
gonna
we
say
won't
that's
have
why
all
this
these
guy's
injuries.
an intern at Alabama now.
Yeah.
I think the linebackers will be the strength of the defense, and coming into camp, coming out of spring, coming into fall, I was really concerned about the secondary. I don't know. I'm not as concerned about them now. I think I don't know if they'll be a strength, but I'm more encouraged by it than I was, and I even think there's a point be interesting to see. I think there's a point it'll be Warrior and 3 freshmen starting possibly in the secondary, and that could
It's
be a good
possible.
thing or it could be a bad thing. But I don't know. I'm just not as worried about the secondary now. It seems like they've got some athletes back there that can, may be able to play. It's still at defensive line. It's got me concerned.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I was going to say. We're all avoiding that defensive
No,
line.
I mean
We're not-
it does. It concerns me, and I even think there's some decent players, some guys that have talent on that line with Tuttle and Phillips and some of these other. I mean, you got Gooden coming in,
Alexis
and
Johnson.
yeah. I mean, I don't think it's void of talent. I'm not saying it's all world talent or anything like that, but I don't
Well,
know. That's my big concern is defensive line for sure.
yeah, I mean, you look at those guys when they were recruited and brought to Tennessee. I mean, every one of those guys were four and five. So well, Phillips was a 5-star, and
Hmm.
Tuttle was a high 4, and Alexis Johnson. He was one of the top JUCO players that year that Tennessee signed him, and then Gooden, he was a 4-star. So there's definitely talent there. It's just really, really thin. So I mean, we're going to have to depend on a couple of probably freshmen. That's uh, one of the things that's probably been one of the biggest surprises that has me worried is the fact somebody like Matthew Butler, who second year in the program and actually played some last year. Uh, it appears that he's been passed up by a couple of the true freshmen. I mean, you got
that
that
goes back to
Kingston Harris and John Mincy.
what Rocky said or you said. We've all said it, but that goes back to development, man. And that's the hard part about this season because there are upperclassmen that haven't developed, and so you're talking about having 3 freshmen starting the secondary. I mean, what's that tell you? I mean, maybe it is a good thing. Get some new blood in there. But the lack of development has just killed this team. And it's not Coach Pruitt's fault, but he has to find an answer to it.
Well, yeah,
That's for damn sure.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're going to see 3 freshmen starting next week. Actually, I'd bet.
Oh, I know,
Aaron,
I know.
But I think based on what we're saying, I think it's possible that Taylor, Bryce Thompson, and Trevon Flowers, all 3 are starting at one point, just based off what we've seen on that. But I think this is the defensive line is the prime unit where progression applies to, because they've gotten worse in a bad way the last 2 years as the season's gone along, and teams that towards the end, especially when you're playing Missouri, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, them guys don't need to be running for 400 yards on you. That's just unacceptable right there. So I think the biggest unit that needs that we need to see progression from as the year goes along is the defensive line, and I don't. It's the talent that's there has just not been. It's just not been developed up to this point. What
It's
will
not,
they do next week?
and of course,
I mean, I don't think we'll know anything on them after next week. 'Cause it seems West Virginia's pass happy, but when we get into that end of September, October, that's what we're gonna find out about that defensive line then.
yeah. Of course, we have to realize that Shy Tuttle. I mean, he's been hurt ever since his freshman year.
Yep.
After that cheap shot by that Georgia Bulldog, and then Phillips, he's another one. I mean, first couple of years, his shoulder was giving him problems. Really, last year was really the first year that he was able to actually play. But I think a big thing with those guys is that this is really the first year that they've been able to go through a full season through the strength program. I mean, even if they were able to do some lifting and conditioning and stuff, they were still having to rehab like Phillips his shoulder or Tuttle his knee and stuff. So I'm encouraged by that both of them seem to be the healthiest that they've been since their freshman years.
You know what's interesting, and you make a point about that, and that they both do seem the healthiest, but all the injuries they both had, neither one of them's ever redshirted.
Yeah,
that blows my mind right there. I mean, I can kind of see with Tuttle because for some reason defensive line depth has never happened, but there was no reason not to redshirt Phillips at some point. I mean, I would. Man, it'd be nice to have both those guys as redshirt juniors right now, especially considering they're just now getting, like you said, the healthiest they've been since they've been there. And
yeah.
So I think there's hope with those two guys. I think there's with the 3-4, it allows you a whole lot of different combinations on that line. That's one thing I think is interesting is you could theoretically have 300-pounders on the line. Right there, if you needed to. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of the rotation goes, who develops, who kind of falls off as the year goes along. Right there, I think there's some talent, like I've said, but man, I got to see something out of them a little bit. And I really think it'll be close to Florida, Georgia before we get a true test on the ground.
Yeah. And I just wonder when we're in nickel and dime, if we run a 4-2-5, I mean, who's our four down lineman?
Yep.
I mean, are we bringing perhaps Darrell Taylor and Batuli and letting them be ends? Or are we bringing Kongbo down again? What are we going to do there?
I would think you would see Kongbo or Taylor for sure, right? And a lot of times you call people, it's a 3-4, and I hate the 3-4, and I don't really know a whole lot about it. But they usually bring a linebacker in as another down lineman a lot of times. A lot of times.
I think that's an interesting concept. I haven't seen anything about their nickel packages. I don't know if you guys have maybe seen anything or not. It's an interesting thing because one thing I always hate, and this thing goes back to John Chavis, he used to do it. I always hated defensive tackles, 270 pounds or something like that. And our old buddy Butch, he did the same thing here last couple of years. So when you go to that nickel, is it like Tuttle and maybe Alexis Johnson or Gooden on the inside, and then you've got Phillips and Taylor or Kongbo? That's, who's two linebackers, Batuli and Sapp probably, or Batuli and Kirkland. Interesting thought, actually, if they do Taylor or Kongbo. I would think you would go Taylor, to be honest with you.
Oh, I do too, yeah. I think that he's got the speed that you'd be looking for there.
It's pretty funny you talking about small defensive tackles, and here we're talking about Kongbo being athletic on the outside as an outside linebacker, and the guys play defensive end, defensive tackle.
Yeah, it is. Because I think he's down to, if I seen he's down like 255 now,
Yeah, I think that's what they reported him when camp started.
I think he's a very intriguing option at outside line. I think it's a high risk, low reward right there. He could do nothing, or he could be really good there. It's
Well, when he pulls it off, just remember you heard it here from Boogie Bentley first.
yep.
If he flops, it's not the first time I missed.
But I'm curious to see. I think next week we're gonna find out about this secondary in a hurry, because we're probably the only passing offense that they may face on the same level as Missouri. We're going to find out what some of these freshmen are like to begin with. I think Warrior, I think we know what we've got with him. I really think Alontae Taylor is going to be, I think he's going to be a good corner. Really good. Not necessarily saying he'll be a, all SEC this year or anything, but over the course of his career, I think he'll be a really good one. Who's starting opposite of him is the question. Is it Buchanan? Is it, I'm not sure who's there. I'm not even
Right
sure
now,
who's
that's
listed.
who they're saying.
Yeah, and is it still
Buchanan.
Abernathy listed as other safety?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think they've actually released a formal depth chart or anything like that per se, but from what all the media is reporting for what limited amount of time that they've been able to watch anything and stuff, they're saying that Abernathy is probably going to start just because of experience.
Abernathy's one of them guys, man. He's had some good games. He's made some good plays, and then he's had some just absolute bonehead. I mean, 2 plays 2 years in a row, same thing. Lets a receiver get loose on him. One of them should have almost cost him the game, and the other one did. I don't think Abernathy's terrible by any means, but he makes some tough play. He's made some bad plays in big situations too. That's why I really think they're high on this Flowers guy, and I think we'll see him next week plenty.
Oh yeah, yeah, he'll definitely play.
Yeah, and
He'll
I think
definitely
at
play.
nickel is it Schamberger that's been playing
Yeah,
nickel? Maybe?
he's playing that star position is what they call it.
So I'm kind of intrigued by the secondary, and they may not be much. I don't know, but I think there's potential, and I like, Pruitt's involved. You got Kelly, who was Florida State's defensive coordinator, involved. You got Terry Fair involved. I think they've got the right guys back there coaching that secondary to get them in the right direction, and so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah.
And I'm saying they'll have at least 1 to 2 picks next week on Greer.
Whoa,
Oh,
that
my
is
goodness.
that's
Cheers to the
one
working man.
unit that when we talk about seeing improvement throughout the course of the year, I think that's one unit that we should expect to see them learn and grow throughout the course of the year. And hopefully by the time that we get to November and we're playing people like Charlotte, Missouri, and Kentucky and Vanderbilt, like we should, we're performing at a much higher level that is going to enable us, to make that 6-6 at least.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into that. We mentioned it earlier, expectations, what we think. I think all three of us are in agreement. 6-6 in a bowl game, I think, is the goal. But what do you guys think? Looking at the schedule, I mean, ETSU, UTEP, Charlotte, that's your 3 guaranteed wins, right? But, golly, I just cannot. Again, it's like I said to open the show. It's so hard to get excited knowing what we came from last year.
Yeah, but also think about this, Boogie. It was the worst record in program history, and it wasn't probably the worst team as far as talent in program history. Just had a just a idiot running the program basically, and it still took a Hail Mary, just a bonehead defensive play for Florida to beat us, and then we're absolutely horrible on offense, and against South Carolina, we're down there at the 2 yard line or whatever, and Garantano throws the pass, and who was it? Palmer that dropped it? Was it Palmer or Brandon Johnson? I mean, it hit him in the hands, and other than that, we win that game. So, you know, those 2 games right there, and that team last year was 6-6.
Well, even Kentucky. I mean, that one.
Well,
Didn't
yeah,
they pick a pass off on the last possession that somehow got overturned?
yeah.
That's almost 7-5 with a garbage coach and a not a good team. Um,
With a absolute intern as a head coach.
hmm
I think that the thing is, and yeah, Butch was a train wreck of a coach, but we don't know what we have in Jeremy Pruitt, honestly. I mean, yeah, do we all like what he says? Absolutely. Sounds like a good old ball coach. But we also thought that Butch was a good ball coach at one point in time. You know, maybe that's why I'm taking this backward stance that I've never taken before. We've only done this show, what is this, the third season of Talking Balls? I'm always the optimist. I'm always positive. I always pick Tennessee to win, but it's just so hard for me to do that right now. And when I run down this schedule, man, it is brutal. B-R-oodle, man, after Florida. Such a brutal stretch. And again, we talk about depth. Can they stay healthy through that meat of the schedule before they go into the Charlotte, Kentucky, Missouri, Vanderbilt? Are they going to be healthy at that time? That's a huge factor.
Yep.
But that's why I think 6-6 is the goal, and I think that's where I put this football team. I think 6-6. I think it's reachable, but I could easily see them only winning 4 or 5 games. But I can't. I can see them winning 4 or 5 games. I can see them going 6-6. I can't see them winning. Maybe 7 would be the ceiling. I think, maybe.
I think if
That's just me.
everything went right, if we want to consider ceiling versus floor right here, if all the breaks went right, and they pulled out every game they could win, I think the ceiling could be 9 wins. Am I saying they would get to it? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all.
You're saying that's absolute ceiling.
I think
I
that's
get
the
it.
absolute ceiling. If everything went right, they played up to their potential, some breaks went the right way, I think, and the odds of 9 wins, in my opinion, is probably slim to none on that. So I'll preface it by saying ceiling is 9 wins, and just based off of last year, that could have easily been a 3-9 season. I think the floor is 3-9 this season. I don't expect them to go 3-9, but and it just seems I don't expect them to go 9-3. But ceiling versus
the
floor.
comments on YouTube are filling up with our main thinks they're going to win 9 games.
Yeah, no,
You'll be quoted on that.
no. I if everything went right, yeah, I think West Virginia is beatable. I think Florida's beatable. I think South Carolina's beatable. I think Missouri's beatable. I obviously think Kentucky, Vanderbilt, ETSU, UTEP, and Charlotte are all beatable. Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn, I just don't see those. The other 9, they're winnable games. Will we win them? Probably not all of them. There's some really tough games there, but everything went good. I'll stick to that. The ceiling could be 9 wins. I would go with 6 if I had to. 6-7 though is my pick.
Yeah. And maybe we're in store for one of those seasons when, what was it? I don't know if it was one of Butch's years or Dooley years when we played with like 3 defensive linemen the entire year. I mean, like, none of them got hurt. None of them, had to miss a game or anything. I mean, it was just amazing that you could make it through the season without experiencing a injury like that or something. But that's what it would take to get to that 9-3 level. And you would have to see, number one, you'd have to see Garantano turn into a really good quarterback, and you'd have to see people like Kongbo, Darrell Taylor, Kyle Phillips, and Shy Tuttle actually play up to their rankings as far as, you know, their star ranking that they came out high school of. But it's possible.
Yeah, I mean it's not a high possibility, I don't think. But just looking at it, I mean West Virginia's going to be hard to beat. I think they're. I mean we're going to find out what the good thing about that game, opposed to last year versus Georgia Tech, is I don't think West Virginia is going to be coming out running for 500 yards on us. But the only thing is the secondary is a big question mark as well, even though I think there's going to be some talent in it. That's just not the best first game
No,
to have
at
when you're
all.
breaking in a new secondary. You know, if Pruitt win or loss this week, I'm not going to. I'll be happy if they win. I'll be disappointed if they lose. I'm not going to have any bearing either way on Pruitt with that game. I think we'll see, you know, based on decisions, what we'll have a little bit of an idea. But come that Florida game, man, it's time. It's time to quit letting these, you know, down Florida teams come in and win. That's where I'm going to. He beats Florida, I'm buying in. All right? I'm buying in. If he doesn't beat Florida, he's going to have to prove to me. And I'm just not buying in until we beat somebody of significance in the Southeastern Conference.
You're so dialed in on that Florida game, man. I
That's
can
my
tell
game, man.
I was going to say that's your game.
We
Georgia's
should be
my
on a
game.
4-game winning streak against those fellas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa. We should. What?
Should be.
Oh. Whew.
Should
Sorry.
be on probably
I
more
thought-
than that and going back to Dooley.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying they should be going into that Florida game 3-0 is what I thought. But
That's what I'm expecting.
let's talk about West Virginia then. Let's just go ahead and transition to it. Brock, you made a pretty bold statement. What'd you say? 2
I
picks?
said 1-2.
Well, okay, that's not as bold as I
Well, I
thought.
expect Greer's going to probably throw for some yardage. They've got a
Yeah,
stout
I mean,
passing game. I mean, they really do. But I'm telling you, we'll pick him 1 or 2 times. It's going to happen.
Well, a lot of people claim he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's got an All-American wide receiver to throw to. They've got an experienced offensive line. I hate it. I hate that that's the first game. I wish they had a cupcake first game. I know it's fun to talk about these big matchups on national TV, opening weekend, but gosh, sometimes it'd be nice to be playing a cupcake that first week and just get a win and move on, you know?
Well,
That'd be way
especially
better.
in a season like this, you know. I mean, if it was Pruitt's third year and
Right.
he had 3 recruiting classes under his belt, yeah, I mean, I'm like, you know, I'll play anybody, you know. Sign the Cleveland Browns up, let's play them. But
Well-
it is a hard first game. I mean, it's a hard first game when you think about that we're installing, you know, totally different schemes, offense and defense, and you know, it's first game with this coaching staff, and we got to go out there and try to defend. You know, I mean, Greer's a good quarterback. You know, these people claiming he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. I think they're like totally like smoking something. I don't know what it is because number one, West Virginia is not going to win enough ball games for Will Greer to win the Heisman Trophy. They're not going to give it to a team that finishes 8-4, and I'd be surprised if West Virginia finishes any higher than 8-4.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
it is a difficult first game. There's no doubt about it. There's one thing that I think that if we have hope as far as Tennessee goes, I think West Virginia's defense is probably on par with what Tennessee's been the last couple of years, and they don't play defense in the Big 12. So I mean that's obvious. They even talk about it. So you know, who knows? Maybe we can line up and just play ball control offense, pass it whenever that we need to, and just pound it, and keep Will Greer on the sidelines.
That's what I'm
I think
interested.
Sounds like a heck of a plan to me.
well, and you know, I think
Huddle
that's
up,
what it
run the
needs to be.
football, play defense, and win, baby.
Yeah.
Now you're getting me excited. Now we're
See?
talking about smash mouth
See, that's
football.
what I'm interested to see because, it's like I said, I think quarterback is still a big question mark. If that line, and I think that line's got some potential this year. I don't know why I do. I've just, some of the additions, I think were really good additions. But I think with Ty Chandler, I think with London from Michigan State coming in, Tim Jordan. Yeah. With those three guys, I really think, especially if West Virginia's not stopping them, and that line's just plowing, line them up and plow, man. Keep on getting it with those three running backs. And then, when you've got if they want to creep up a little bit, you've got the talent on the outside to do it with if Garantano will just throw it. Going to have to score some points in this game. You're not going to hold West Virginia to 10, 14 points, anything like that.
No.
But like you said, I think the one thing that makes me feel good about it is their defense is not very good either. And
I'll go on record and say that their defense is trash.
I hope that it looks like that next week too.
They've got
welcome to a new season of Talkin Vols.
They've got 5 defensive backs that are on scholarship that are available for Saturday's game. 5 defensive backs. So you know what I think that we need to do? I think we need to pound the rock, and I think we need to have Juwan Jennings and Marquez Callaway out there absolutely mauling those 5 defensive backs. And I guarantee you Jennings will.
I was going to say, I know one of those guys that'll do it. I know one of those guys loves to run block.
Well, you mentioned these names, man. That just tells you right there. I feel like I'm saying man every time, but you mentioned these names. Jennings, Callaway, Brandon Johnson. Just think about these names we're mentioning. There's talent on this football team. There is talent on this football team. It's just a matter of getting it done. And they could send a message next week. I'll tell you what, my blood's getting boiling right now thinking about it.
Man, well, you're getting me fired up talking about it because Tennessee's had some damn talent the last few years. Look in the NFL, man. You see these guys go to the NFL and all of a sudden they're freaking great. It's like, what was the problem? There was one problem, and that problem's gone. So now it's on Coach Pruitt. What can you do? This is your job. You got your job. You're the head guy. Now the pressure's on. But I ain't buying in. You got to prove it. You got to prove it.
Oh, I'm there. I've said it. Florida game. That's prove it to me. Prove it to me against Florida.
Prove it, Pruitt.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got anything else they want to add? Or are we going to make some predictions and wrap this thing up?
What about season predictions? What'd you guys say on season? Is everybody pretty
I
much
went
6-6,
6-6.
7-5? I mean, I'll say
JP
I think.
Scared to admit
I
it.
mean, I'll say on that. I think ETSU, UTEP, Charlotte, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and I'm saying Florida, 6-6 right there. And the longer we keep talking about, I'm gonna say 7-5 and a win over West Virginia. But
Oh Lord,
no, I do think 6-6.
I'm going 7-5, boys. And if we keep talking, it'll be 8-4. But I'll stop.
I was
right
going to
there.
say you're a little less ballsy today than you were last night.
Well, I was
Must
just
have been fired up. Must have been on the message boards.
Who do you have as the 6th and 7th win?
South Carolina's one of them.
Oh,
I think South Carolina. We're going to beat the snot out of them.
that's
ETSU, UTEP, South Carolina, Charlotte, Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. How many's that?
you got Missouri.
That's your 7.
That's 7. Well then,
That's who I think too, minus South Carolina.
Then
That's a,
go ahead and change me to 8-4, by gosh, because we ain't losing to them damn Gators this year.
oh gosh.
Man, I think
So that's it,
Missouri
8-4.
Missouri one of course, that secondary at that point, it'll depend a lot on that. I right now have got Missouri as a loss. Their passing games.
We ain't losing to Derek Dooley.
Man, I hope not. I hope not.
But there's games like Missouri, South Carolina, and Florida. I have a hard time thinking Florida is because, again, we've been abused for so long. I have a hard time saying I think that's a 50-50 shot. Yeah. But I think because, you look at that Florida game or South Carolina or Missouri, and that's where I come out at 6-6 because those are interchangeable. They may win one, they should, and lose another. I don't know. That's why I'm at 6-6. I don't have the confidence to say they're going to definitely beat South Carolina to get to 7 wins.
Well, and the thing about it is, with this team and obviously how many probably inexperienced players that are going to have to play, we could up and beat Florida in September and then turn around and lose to Missouri or South Carolina.
Right. That's like I said earlier. That's my question. When you go through Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama,
what kind of healthy that mess?
Yeah, can you come through that mess healthy?
Yeah.
Well, let's pick West Virginia. We've already really kind of talked about it, so let's just pick the scores, wrap it up. We're getting close to an hour, that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to stick to an hour. I'm going to try to get these uploaded by Monday every week throughout the season. We will do an episode every week. The goal is to have it uploaded by Monday, but sometimes life gets in the way and things get shifted around. But that's the goal, so be looking for it on YouTube or iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from. Again, if you listen to it on a podcast platform, that's fine. It doesn't matter to us where you listen to it. But if you want to chat with us, come leave us a comment on YouTube. We are very active. We talk to anybody that leaves a message unless they say something bad about old Armaine, and sometimes it gets shut down.
Well, it wasn't so much about me as it crossed the line.
Well, I didn't want to. Yeah, it was. I didn't want to go. Whatever. I didn't really want to bring it
you
back
can
up,
call me what you want to. It gets beyond that. That's when it's a problem, and it became a problem. So, not sure even how it got to that point, but hey.
3 seasons of Talkin VAWLS, that's the only real problem we've ever had. And we've had some real jewels in the comments. But again, go search the S&B Network or just search Talkin VAWLS, VAWLS, on YouTube. Find the episode and leave us a comment and chat with us. But let's make the picks. Armaine, it's a new season. I'm putting you on the spot. Tennessee, West Virginia, this coming Saturday. What is it, 3:30?
3:30, CBS. Yep.
It's going to be the pre-show for All In, baby.
Yeah.
Nobody gets that but Armaine.
I'll get, yeah. All right. So, man, my opinion's changed as this show's gone along, but I can't. I've thought about going out on that limb. I walked out it a little bit, and it didn't seem sturdy enough. So, I just think there's too many questions for me right now. Too many question marks. Can it be changed? There's potential, but it's not proven. At this point, I think West Virginia's more proven. I'm going to say 38-28, West Virginia.
I think it's, when you look at this game, we just talked about Tennessee's roster, our expectations, what we want, and it starts at the quarterback position. And we don't even know who's going to start for Tennessee at quarterback. And you're questioning, is Garantano good enough? Does he have his head on his shoulders? How good is Christ? We don't even know who's going to play quarterback. And then you go to West Virginia, and whether you agree or disagree, the guy's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Maybe not a Heisman Trophy candidate, but he is a really good quarterback. And when you start there, it's tough, man. It's tough when you have all these questions that you just don't know the answer to. I stuck my toe out there. I really didn't even get off the trunk of the tree because it didn't look sturdy. So I think I might push JP out there and let him test the branch. But I'm going to say West Virginia 31, Tennessee 24. If Tennessee wins on Saturday, it's going to be one hell of a party recording Talkin VAWLS because we're going to be going 12-0, baby. It's going to be a celebration. JP, save this podcast and get out there on that limb.
Oh, I'm out there. I mean, I am out there. I'm like hanging on to the tiniest of limb there is. I mean, it's like it's got one little old leaf out there on it. I'm on there. Boys, Pruitt is going to do it. They are going to be the talk of college football Saturday night. Will Greer's Heisman campaign. Don't even get out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Vols going to shock the world. Big 12 does not play defense. Tennessee 37, Mountaineers 34. This place is going to be hysteric. I won't have a single fingernail left. I will be shaking from head to toe, but you can write it down, mark it down. You can call me out if it don't happen. Vols 37, Will Greer, Heisman campaign 34. We are going to pound it down their throat. He hasn't been mentioned on this podcast yet, but Dominic Woods Anderson will catch the game winner touchdown.
That was awesome. I'm all in.
Wow.
I'm all in.
That's fitting. We're all in. Oh, man, that's going to wrap it up for Talkin Vols episode number 30. Again, leave us comments on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at TalkinVols_pod. We got some fun things coming to Patreon. We still need to iron them out, talk about it, but you can check that out, patreon.com/TalkinVols_pod. But again, thanks for listening. If this is your first time checking out Talkin Vols, because we are on a podcast platform, thanks for checking it out. We're just three dudes that love Tennessee football. But that's going to wrap it up. Just got one thing left to say, fellas, and it's been a while since I said it. Go Big Orange.
Jack Kerouac, he drank himself to death in New England, and I'd like to take his hand and say, Jack, man, it's okay. Now he's gone, and we're left to move along on without him. Songs howl like beat poets at an arcade, soaking moonlit falls on broken past this inundated orb that we call home. And it's night and I'm alone and I'm alive.